My understanding is we are live. Hello and welcome to the Edmond, a general election debate between the three candidates seeking an open House District 39 seat in the Oklahoma legislature. We have Republican Eric Harris, Democrat Reagan Roth, and Libertarian Richard Prodzinski. They are here with me tonight on stage, and whoever voters select in HD 39 on February 13th in this special election will fill an unexpired term in the Oklahoma House, which begins regular session on Monday. My name is Trey Savage. I'm the editor-in-chief of NonDoc.com, an independent journalism publication based in Oklahoma. I'm here on stage tonight with Bennett Brinkman, who is filling in for our journalist who runs our Edmond Community Reporting Project. That's Joe Tomlinson, who has been waylaid by a dubious burger at the last minute, and Bennett is filling in. If you live in Edmond and you don't already follow Joe's coverage of Edmond civics, please go to nondoc.com, check out his email that he puts out on Tuesdays, as well as our text message program.
Yeah, thanks, Trace. Joe is also a core member for Report for America, a national nonprofit that supports newsrooms like NonDocs. As a Report for America core member, he volunteers with a journalism class here at tonight's venue, Edmond Santa Fe High School. As a Memorial grad myself, I wanted to say a quick go Dogs, but I'm happy to be here at Memorial, and I wanted to say thank you to EPS for letting us use this beautiful venue for tonight. You mean at Santa Fe? Wow. I didn't realize we had an insurgent at our at our Edmond Santa Fe debate. This facility, of course, renting it, hiring security, and doing the other things that are required to put on a debate requires a little bit of financial outlay, and so I'd like to thank the sponsors of our 2024 debate series so far this year, the State Chamber of Oklahoma and AARP Oklahoma. They're simply financial sponsors who, like us, believe in the value of public debates. Let's give them a round of applause real quick. Lastly, we are thrilled to partner tonight with KWTV News 9, which is streaming this debate on news9.com and on the News 9 and NonDoc Facebook pages. So right now is a great time to share those live streams on Facebook or elsewhere, and if you're in the audience, please do that and then silence your cell phones. I'm going to share that here in just a little bit. Let me say this before I do. Please hold your applause until the end of each round of questions. Tonight's format will start with 90-second opening statements from each candidate. Then we'll have 3 rounds of questions. Hold that applause so that people at home can hear what's going on. If there are disruptions, we'll stop the debate. We'll have security ask people to leave. I don't think we need to do that, but thank you for participating in the public sphere. With that, tonight's order for opening statements, we'll start with Mr. Richard Prodzinski. He'll go first, followed by Ms. Reagan Roth, and followed by Mr. Eric Harris. Mr. Prodzinski, without further ado, 90 seconds of an opening statement to you.
I was born in Brooklyn, New York. Went into a very loving parents, sisters, and brothers. Went to a Catholic school for 8 years. Everybody wore a uniform. Everybody was in harmony. Then went to a public high school, huge thing, probably about 4,000 students, and we had everybody wearing different stuff, thinking differently, but for some reason, we were able to get together with and study. My mother and father wanted me to be independent, so I bought myself a $3 used bicycle. I started making deliveries and going around the neighborhood and getting other people to hire me to do odd jobs for them. I earned money. My father wanted me to go to Poland to visit with my extended family, bought an airplane ticket, and flew to Poland. When there, I learned all about communist rule. And at that point, I said, communism is awful. I will never stand for that. And at that time, I kind of become political. I joined the Marine Corps to help stop the red tide from Vietnam. Got shot once, had missiles a number of times. Did 2 tours there, came back, got a degree from Tulane University, got a master's degree from Oklahoma City University, worked for Air Force Base with AWACS, then moved on to Hanscom Air Force Base, worked in AWACS, and then worked to a Saudi Arabian program. Then returned to here to Edmond.
Thank you very much, sir. We saw that woe sign. Thank you. You don't have to have a hard stop. You can finish your sentence when we get there. Ms. Roth, 90 seconds to you. Opening statement.
Thank you. I want to say
Let's use that microphone. There we go. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to start by saying thank you to NonDoc for moderating this debate tonight. Thank you to Santa Fe High School I'm usually here for the orchestra programs, district and regional contests. If you have not seen our performing arts in our Edmond Public Schools, they are fantastic, fantastic group of students and educators. My children are in orchestra. I also want to say thank you to Mr. Brzezinski for your service. Thank you for your military service. My name is Reagan Roth. I am a lifelong Oklahoman and a longtime resident of Edmond and House District 39. I've lived here for more than 30 years. My husband and I both attended Edmond Public Schools, and we graduated from Oklahoma State University in 2002. We are also parents to 3 amazing Edmond Public School students. I am running in this election because I believe in this community. I believe that I can be a leader that brings balance and common sense. And I will listen and I will work with members of both parties to find common sense solutions that meets the needs of all Oklahomans. I realize that we may not always agree on policy, but I believe that we have more in common with each other than what divides us, and we can find common ground if we work together. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Harris. Our 90 seconds to you. Turn that phone off. There we go. Thank you very much. Mr. Harris, 90 seconds to you.
Well, good evening, and thank you all so much for being here. Everyone that's here in the audience, everyone who's watching online, thank you. As Reagan mentioned, thank you to NonDoc for sponsoring this good discussion. And I'm honored to be on the stage with both of you all, who I think very highly of for just being willing to run for this office. I know it takes a lot of time away from family and friends and other ventures. My name is Eric Harris, as Trace already mentioned. I'm a native Oklahoman. I was born and raised in Oklahoma. I grew up in a family of educators. Everyone taught K through 12 school. Became a prosecutor. I graduated from the University of Oklahoma and immediately went to the Oklahoma Attorney General's office and became an assistant attorney general as a prosecutor. As I mentioned, I prosecuted elder abuse, Medicaid fraud, and the abuse and neglect of vulnerable adults. Well, later, after my public service concluded with the Attorney General's office, I went into the private sector as a small business owner, small business attorney. As far as me personally, I'm honored to be married to a beautiful woman named Melissa Harris, and we have a beautiful little girl who is 7 months old. Her name's Olivia. They're actually at home right now because Olivia is, in the normal stages of being an infant, fussing. So I'm very excited to be here with you all and discussing what I believe Oklahoma's next step should be to get our state on a better footing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If you make it to the legislature, there'll be plenty of fussing up there. Okay, let's go to round 1 of our questions. Round 1 is titled 23rd and Stinkin' Lincoln. Each candidate will have 1 minute to answer each question. We'll rotate who answers first. Mr. Harris, this first question is for you. The man you're all running to replace was the House Appropriations and Budget Vice Chairman at the time he resigned in September. In 60 seconds, tell us your best understanding of the state budget process, its positives, and what you might want to change.
Well, the State Board of Equalization is an entity, or it's a board made up of elected officials. They actually certify how much money the state of Oklahoma is able to appropriate through the legislative process. Once those figures come out, then the game gets going as far as figuring out the state budget. Now, I will say in years past, that process has been very limited. Individuals aren't involved. There are only several people that are involved, legislative leaders and maybe the governor's office as well. I'm really glad that now there is a push to make that process more transparent. I know for me as a state representative, I would not be inclined to vote in favor of a budget that only had an opportunity to review maybe a couple of minutes before voting on it. I'm looking for more transparency in how we budget our state's funds moving forward. That's my understanding of our state budgeting process.
Thank you very much. Ms. Roth, same question to you. What's your thoughts on the state budgeting process? What do you like? What would you like to change? 60 seconds.
The State Board of Equalization, as Mr. Harris mentioned, meets each December to put forth an estimate of the funding that will be available for appropriations in the next budget year. We are not quite out of January yet, and we are now forced to be in a special session that is taking away 1 week of budget subcommittee meetings that could be very useful in preparing for regular session. So the process of budgeting is extremely important to our state. It's extremely important to understand what revenues we have available before we can appropriate spending, and things like special sessions 1 week before regular session are a waste of time and resources.
Thank you very much. Mr. Prodzinski, same thing to you. Let's talk about the state budget. What do you like? What do you not like?
We have an exact number of dollars they're allowed to spend, and 101 guys are going to go out there and argue about it. They want their fair share. They have lobbyists backing them up. They're shooting them how to present their positions, and everybody is trying to get their way. They're not really concerned about what the individual wants. I think they really care about the lobbyist, and other people are saying, we want this bill. All these lobbyists are giving us draft bills. We take the draft bill and we say, please introduce this to the bill. And they get it introduced, and then the lobbyists start working to convince the other legislators to vote, and they start trading. Vote for me, I'll vote for you. It's called log rolling. And they say we want transparency, but they don't tell us that transparency. I want to really give them transparency. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bennett has the next question, starting with Ms. Roth. Before that, let me just say, hold those microphones they say swallow the microphone in the theater business, so hold those up to your mouths pretty well. That'll clear up the sound. Bennett, your question.
Yeah, so Ms. Ruff, I've got your next question, and I want you to answer two things. What is the biggest state law issue specifically facing House District 39 here in Edmond, and what is the biggest issue facing the state of Oklahoma as a whole?
I think for both, the answer is education. For House District 39, and I will actually broaden it a little bit to Edmond Public Schools. Edmond Public Schools has 26,000 students that attend our public schools. We are a community of roughly 90,000 people and growing, and 26,000 of those are Edmond Public Schools students. And nationally, Oklahoma is ranked nationally very low with regard to education rankings per pupil funding. And each day, I feel like our educators are under attack. They are faced with constant threats and rhetoric and name-calling and bullying. I think, like many things, those things start at the top. And we have to discourage that type of behavior. It's not good for our teachers. We must bring respect back to the teaching profession. And I would always work to better that environment for teachers and students.
Thank you very much. Mr. Prodzinski, same thing to you. Biggest state law issue facing House District 39, and then biggest issue facing Oklahoma as a whole.
I see one of the biggest troubles is growth. Edmond wants to grow, the state wants to grow. The problem is when you grow, that means you need to spend more money, provide more services. Everybody starts fighting, they want their fair share. So if we want growth, we need to do it naturally. We're bringing in 50,000 people from where? Different cultures in Edmond. We're going to bring in thousands and thousands to Oklahoma, and our culture is going to be significantly changed. This is natural. We always change, but I want natural growth. I do not want people rushing down here trying to make $1 million off coming to Oklahoma because it's such a wonderful. We say it's a promised land. We are beautiful. Please come. But when they come, our culture will change, and we'll have lots of conflict. So I want to slow down culture, just do it naturally, and stop forcing more, encouraging people to come.
Thank you. Mr. Harris, last thing, or same thing to you. Biggest state law issue facing House District 39 and biggest issue facing the state.
Well, honestly, I do believe that the issue, like Reagan mentioned, in Edmond and throughout the state is education. Just look at the amount of students who are missing school on a regular basis. We have an attendance problem, with just getting the kids to the classroom for them to try and learn something. 1 in 5 kids throughout this state has an issue with attendance. And it's not just unique to Edmond. And while Edmond does have really great schools, amazing schools, at the same time, we have to get kids there. So I would say education and stressing the importance of education just showing up is important. But I'll take it out of the K through 12 realm as well and also say that we have to focus on workforce readiness as well. Workforce readiness. We have to make sure that we are preparing kids to go out into the workforce and do great things. Whether that's through going to college, going through a trade school, or maybe not going to school at all if your profession doesn't require it. But education has to be a main focus for anyone that's wanting to go into public service.
Thank you very much. I've got a quick hand raiser. The legislature, the House in particular today, voted on a 0.25% income tax rate cut. If you were in the House today, it's before the normal budget process. There's a lot of questions and criticism about how that went down. Raise your hand, would you have voted in favor of the tax cut today? Okay. Now, Mr. Brodzinski, first question to you on a similar note. What would be one bill you would file as soon as you can? You can also talk about the tax cut proposal that I just asked about. 60 seconds to you. What is one bill you would file in the legislature?
I would want to have the legislators stop sending in so many bills. They're sending in 1,000 bills to go out there and waste their time. Most of the bills will not be done. Everybody's arguing. I think we should take 1 or 2 years and say, every legislator you represent your state, give me one bill and let's go out there and get into the details, spend a week or 2 weeks on the bill rather than 30 seconds. Stop going out there throwing 1,000 bills in the State House, another 1,000 in the Senate. And what they're doing, they're creating conflict for the citizens. They know they're introducing bills and they're never going to get out of the committee. We get aggravated by the citizens because we say we do not want it. A good citizen knows that this bill, for instance, was introduced by a Democrat. The Republicans control. Republicans not let that bill in. When I came here to Oklahoma, they introduced 6 bills for taxes, and never one did a bill get supported because Democrats controlled it. So we have to be honest.
Thank you very much. Mr. Harris, 60 seconds to you. What's one bill you would file as soon as you could, and make your case for the tax cut you said you'd vote for?
Sure. Well, I have 1.6 billion reasons why I think that the state of Oklahoma or citizens deserve an income tax cut. It's a 0.25% income tax reduction. Our emergency fund, our state rainy day fund, has $1.6 billion sitting in it right now. And we have done a really good job of making sure that Oklahoma is prepared if we hit a rainy day. At the same time, though, that fund keeps getting added to, yet inflation keeps rising nonstop. I think Oklahomans deserve, and I think Oklahomans want, a good, modest tax cut. At 0.25% income tax means that we're able to provide some relief while continuing to provide good core government services.
One bill you would author?
One bill that I would author would actually be to require several state agencies to go through a regular audit to determine duplicity. Right now in the state of Oklahoma, we have a lot of agencies that essentially do the same thing as another agency. Time and time again, we see state agencies where they're repeating the same thing as another agency, and that's wasting money, it's wasting resources, and those resources we could put somewhere else.
Thank you very much. Ms. Roth, I'm going to give you 60 seconds to talk about your thoughts on taxes and why you weren't in favor of that, what your other thoughts might be, and I'm also going to give you a little extra time to talk about one bill you would author.
Thank you. You read my mind. I would like to respond. For income tax, I will welcome the conversation of tax reform. The problem with income tax relief is that it's not an immediate relief for Oklahomans. Something like the grocery tax that Democrats and Republicans both typically agree on, that would provide immediate relief for all Oklahomans. That would put more money in our pockets for groceries and rising costs. The you want me to go ahead and add my introduction for a bill?
You do whatever you would like to do. This floor is yours.
Okay. Currently, my understanding is that school funding is based on prior year's enrollment numbers. And I think it would be a great idea to introduce a bill that offers the possibility of a mid-year adjustment. Oftentimes, after the fall semester, we have an influx of new enrollees. And I believe Edmond added 700 new students in the last calendar year. Certainly, the growth in East Edmond is attributing to that, but I think a mid-year adjustment might be a good benefit to school funding programs, not just in Edmond, but all across the state of Oklahoma.
Thank you very much. That is that is not the end of round one. We have a toss-up question. Bennett, that is for you. It's going to be 30 seconds to each candidate. Whoever wants to answer first gets to. Bennett.
Yeah, if elected, your life will change. Intelligent people with hefty credit cards will introduce you to areas of public policy you've never considered. Journalists like me will ask you questions, and new friends will remind you how important you are. How will you stay grounded? How will you avoid overindulgence in political power?
30 seconds, whoever wants to start. Go ahead.
I didn't hear exactly the whole part of the question, but I think how will you stay grounded? How will you stay true to yourself? I'm comfortable with who I am, and I know that I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I'm an accounting professional, but I also know who I am and what my character is. I know I'm a person of integrity, and I know I enjoy having conversations with people and learning about their lives, and I feel like public service is right in line with many of those things. I think we are better when we listen to each other and try to find common ground.
30 seconds, Mr. Harris. Mr. Prodzinski, how are you going to avoid changing like so many people say happens when they go into government?
Remembering why I'm there. Yeah, I'm running for this office as an act of public service to serve the public, much like I did as an assistant attorney general for the state and as an adjunct professor for the University of Central Oklahoma. Remembering why I'm there is number one, and that's how I'll stay grounded. The second way that I know I'll stay grounded is my wife. She is very good for reminding me that I don't know everything when I think that I might. So just having a good group of friends and family, to remind me, why I'm there, that's all helpful as well.
Thank you, Mr. Prodzinski. 30 seconds to you.
Legislators want you to be part of them, so they will go out there and shame you to vote for them. I'm strong enough, you go out there and call me an idiot or a jarhead or whatever. If I say no, I'm going to say no. I'm going to say to him, please tell me all the 5 W's and the H's, how we're going to do it. I'm not doing it just because you said, I want to belong to you. I'm only going to do it because I want to do it for the people, and I'll stand it, and I'm willing to stand and fight just like a Marine does in Vietnam.
Thank you very much. That's the end of round one of tonight's debate. Let's give them a round of applause. I'm hearing the audio sounds great. Thank you so much, News 9. You guys are doing a great job. We're going to go to round two, which is titled Teach Them Kids. That's a reference to, well, never mind. We're going to talk education, and as our education reporter, Bennett, will kick off this round of questions.
So first, I've got another toss-up question. We asked this by email ahead of the primary election, and neither Ms. Roth nor Ms. Harris gave particularly direct answers, so let's try it again. In your opinion, what is the best thing controversial State Superintendent Ryan Walters has done since taking office, and what is the worst thing that he has done? 30 seconds to each of you. Anyone can start.
The best thing is that he's gotten us talking. He has driven emotion and passion of parents that know that he is not doing a good job. The worst thing is he is constantly attacking us for the wrong things. He is not leading. He has aspirations for a higher national stage, and he does not have Oklahomans in his best interests.
Mr. Harris, Mr. Prodzinski, 30 seconds. Best thing Superintendent Walters has done, worst thing.
He is definitely creating conflict, but he's not bringing us together. I'd rather have him going out there giving us real details, historical data, rather than giving us rhetoric. He's constantly doing that. I want to live in harmony, and I want my children to be educated. I'm willing to teach them 5,000 years of history. I'm not just giving one purpose. We are a big, huge world. We are society. We all have different opinions. We have to know what their opinions are. And I want the students to know that their fellow student is a wonderful child of God rather than somebody who deserves to be in hell.
Mr. Harris, best, worst?
Well, I would say the best thing that the superintendent has done is by encouraging accountability in schools. Now, that might look different to people, depending on who you are and what your background is or what you want to focus on, but accountability, I think, is important in schools. If I were to say that there's a thing that he hasn't done a good job, I'd say everyone has room for improvement, and I would remind Mr. Walters of an adage that my grandmother often told me. It's always easier to get more bees with honey than vinegar. And so that's what I would say would be an area that I would identify for improvement, just being a little bit more encouraging through honey.
Thank you very much. Bennett, you have the first full question of this round.
Yeah. So last session, the legislature passed a massive education funding increase for public schools that was agreed to in conjunction with new taxes for homeschool and private school families. The $625 million in new public school funding included teacher raises between $3,000 and $6,000, plus paid maternity leave and other sizable formula allocations for districts. Some districts, like EPS, dedicated some of that funding for even higher teacher pay raises. As the 2024 session starts, do you believe public schools and teacher pay should receive another funding increase this year? If so, how much? And if not, what should be the priority for education policy in 2024? This one's to Ms. Roth for 60 seconds.
I absolutely believe that teachers are not where they should be financially, and I think that their profession should see another growth in salaries. Obviously our economy is in a different place now than it was last session or in many years prior to this. So I think constant COLA increases, additional salary increases are very important.
Mr. Prozinski, 60 seconds to you.
Yeah, I have my thoughts, but you said something that made me go thinking somewhere, sorry. On education is the parents' responsibility. Rather than giving teachers more money, I'd rather give the parents more money. Education is being done by TV ads and TV shows. Rather than spending more teachers on giving teachers more money, maybe we should spend more money doing PR and teaching the kids how to be better citizens by watching their TV shows and listening to their songs. Let's do something radical. We've been here, everybody's saying, schools are failing, we keep on throwing more money, they keep on telling us failing. We need to do something radically change. Let's be creative, take some risk, do something different. That's what I would recommend.
Mr. Harris, 60 seconds. Should teachers get another pay raise this year?
Was there another part of that question? I heard the teacher pay raise.
Teacher pay raise, how much if you think so? If not, what should be the priority for education policy?
Well, I think we need to pay teachers a competitive pay or competitive salary. Growing up, my father, who was a teacher for 33 years, I often saw him working multiple jobs because the salary that he had just was not sufficient. Always working summer jobs, he had 2 jobs, oftentimes. We need to make sure that we pay teachers a good wage. Now, if our budget can support it. I always want to make sure we look at the numbers when we figure out exactly what that sweet spot will be. But I, of course, would support, number one, never cutting funding for public education while also making sure that we have a good amount of funding to pay teachers a competitive salary to keep them here. I'm tired of them going to Texas and other states. We need to do what we need to do. We need to do whatever we need to do to make sure that we are able to pay teachers a good and fair salary.
Mr. Prozinski, 15 more seconds, but let me tailor this. How much more? We saw, stair steps between $3,000 and $6,000 last year based on longevity. Do we think a $1,200, a $3,300, a $5,000 raise for each of you? What level would you like to see? Because these are things that they're going to be talking about very soon. Mr. Prozinski, we'll start with you. 15 seconds, and we'll go down the line.
I don't want to talk about raising. I want to know why the students are leaving. Is it because of money or because of poor management or all the rules and regulations? So my granddaughter went to school to be a teacher. She went down there, she did really well. She got a principal with a pain in the neck, and she said, I'm not going to put up with this any longer. So she quit, started her own business, teaching, using computers, teaching people English language via computers. So the reason I want to ask is, what are the 5 W's? Why are teachers so upset? I want to hear the 5 W's and give me a different solution besides just give me money.
Thank you very much. Ms. Roth, what do you think is appropriate this session?
I don't know that it's fair to give you a number without seeing what our budget is. As an accountant, I want to see what the numbers are and make sure we have the money available to spend. I think $5,000 sounds wonderful, but we have to make sure that the funding is there. We also it's not just about throwing money at teachers. We have to restore the respect to the teaching profession. And we are at an emergency certification number that tells us the problem, that we are not respecting the profession, we are not supporting them in meaningful ways, and that is driving our teachers away from the profession.
Mr. Harris, same question to you. Thoughts on a number?
I'm not going to give you a specific number because, as I mentioned earlier, I'd like to know what our budget is really going to look like in order for us to provide a salary increase and figure out what that would be. However, I would also note that we have to require a certain level of accountability too when we're raising those salaries as well. You know, in the private sector with my job, if I'm going to ask my boss or someone is going to ask my boss for a salary increase, we have to be able to demonstrate some key performance indicators that would support that salary increase. That is what I would be looking for as well, making sure that teachers are able to hit, certain key performance indicators while at the same time making sure that they are paid a good salary.
Thank you very much. I've got the next question from Mr. Prodzinski. Oklahoma's business sector has expressed serious concerns about workforce shortages, difficulty in finding people who are able to fill the jobs they need, particularly in fields like nursing and engineering. Teachers as well, of course, as we've talked about. What should change in state government to improve opportunities for employers and employees? 60 seconds, Mr. Prodzinski.
Maybe the industry should do a little PR and tell the students that they could make a better life for themselves rather than studying what they're studying. People are studying philosophy. How many people get a job in philosophy and making money? So we're going out there and saying, I'm going to study philosophy, I'm studying psychology. How many psychologists do we need and actually become a good psychologist? We need to have businesses work as a team with the government and say, let me tell you that this job is going to come along. This is how we're going to help you and your family and the rest of society if you do these kind of jobs. They need to be a team member, not just come here and say, teach me a kid so I can go out there and use them and make money off of them.
Perfect. Swallow that mic for me next time. Mr. Harris, you're up 60 seconds. What should government be doing to help employers and employees?
Well, honestly, I think that government, when it comes time to develop the curriculum to teach students, should reach out to business leaders and ask, well, hey, what are the areas that you all need more help and support in? Perhaps it's STEM fields, perhaps it's automobile engineering, things of that area. Essentially, going out and asking businesses, how can we tailor our curriculum to fill your particular needs? We often see in Oklahoma, unfortunately, that the support for workforce development has actually gone down. My grandfather was an industrial arts teacher while he was in the public school system. I didn't see that at all when I was in high school. I think we need to bring those programs back to give students different fields to consider that would prepare them to go into the workforce.
Ms. Roth, 60 seconds to you, same question.
I believe that communities like Edmond that partner with our VOTEC programs like Francis Tuttle are doing an amazing job preparing our kiddos for workforce and life beyond high school. One of my children is a student at Francis Tuttle, and I see the benefits of that education that he is receiving through both programs as a partnership between his high school and Francis Tuttle. I think government and local and school superintendents should continue working with trade schools, VOTEC programs, and partners in many ways. I also would say that it's not just about preparing our students, it's about wanting them to stay in Oklahoma. And I think the culture of our state, it's very, very important to nurture that and to build that up rather than trying to live in a world and a culture that is tense and does not provide laws that benefit everyone.
Thank you very much. Bennett, you have the next question in this round.
Yeah, so this one's to Mr. Harris. You previously taught as an adjunct professor at the University of Central Oklahoma. In recent years, the historic Teachers College has seen significant budget problems, which have caused constrictions in university offerings. With former Senator Tom Lamb now serving as president, has UCO constricted to a reasonable level of appropriations, or are there areas where UCO's budget and offerings should grow?
Ooh, we've stumped someone. That's great. That's what we're right here for.
Now, I was just thinking how long it's going to take me to answer that question.
Well, you've got 60 seconds.
So I will just say, as it relates to UCO, number one, I'm not involved in the budgeting process, but what I can say with UCO, like any organization, there's always a way that you can trim the fat. You can look into your program and see exactly what you're doing and make sure that what you're trying to do, the budget that you've line item for a particular program actually realizes or reaches the intended goal. Do we have the adequate number of staff? Do we have too many staff in a certain department? Those are the types of things that I would hope UCO would continue to focus on as far as right-sizing its budget on a regular basis. I always think it's very good to operate on a conservative model when it comes to budgeting.
I do want to ask you, though, I think the question was, we've seen constrictions, we've seen budget cuts, we've seen layoffs. Is that where UCO needs to be, or does it need to grow? Or does it
Well,
need
I
to
think
cut
maybe I'm not understanding the question. You said, is that where it needs to be? So what is the is that you were
Right. Are we comfortable with where UCO is now after those tumultuous couple years, or does the university need to grow? Does it need to grow in any particular field? What does it need to do?
Oh, sure. Well, one area that I think UCO hopefully will put some more emphasis on is in ROTC programs and encouraging students to go into military service. That's one area that a lot of universities are able to generate more financial support for its programs while encouraging the next generation of leaders to go into public service through the armed forces. That's one area that I would identify. However, I just think that UCO should be able to provide the services necessary to educate students. To educate students, that should be the main focus. Now, there are some universities that are doing things that I think go beyond the bounds of a university's calling, the area that a university should be focused on. Those types of programs, I don't think that the university should be spending its dollars on them.
And what type of programs are those?
Well, number one, I don't think that you should be doing, or that a university should be taking political stances and encouraging students to take a political stance one way or another. You've actually seen that down the road at the University of Oklahoma on several different occasions where maybe a particular area, a professor, a department, are encouraging students on state dollars to take a political stance. I believe that, again, universities are there to educate. They're there to educate.
Let's take this. I'm going to give Ms. Roth 2 full minutes to talk through this. We've given a lot of time to Mr. Harris on this question, but I think UCO is important to Edmond, it's important to the state, and I think we want to drill down into where people view where it is currently and what should it be doing. Ms. Roth, 2 minutes to you.
Well, I disagree with the filtering of having an opinion, college level classes are adults. They're anywhere from 18 until retirement, if you will. At any age, adults, that they cannot have an opinion and that they're being filtered and told that they can't take a stance on something. I'm not quite sure I understand that. I think college is a wonderful opportunity for students to find their footing and to explore different ideas that maybe otherwise they have not been able to learn and be exposed to in some way. I believe college is a work-life balance, and I believe, opening ourselves to the possibility of new experiences and new social groups and new political views should be welcomed and encouraged in a college.
But let's talk about UCO in particular.
Sure.
Same thing I asked Mr. Harris. We've seen constrictions, we've seen budgetary issues, we've seen fewer employees. What needs to happen at UCO? Is it good where we are? Does it need to grow in certain areas? What's your vision if you're elected to the legislature in terms of the university just down the street here?
Admittedly, I do not know that much about where they currently stand, and I would be very interested in learning more about that. So I don't want to speak on something that I'm not very familiar with. I do know that the last numbers that I viewed, UCO is one of the 3 largest employers in Edmond. And last I saw, they were 1,450, I believe, 1,450 employees. So I certainly understand that universities right now may have challenges and that there may be some changes that might be needed to the budgetary process, or what might be ways that we can bring more students in or develop programs that are stronger. I do not know, though, so I don't want to say something out of turn that I don't know that much about.
Mr. Prodzinski, 2 minutes to you on this topic. You've heard my questions. What is your answer?
Why grow? Is there other ways to get the business people they want? Back when I was in school, all you had to do is get to high school, they'll hire you, they'll train you. They had their unique ways, and they trained us. Their way, not somebody else's way. If I'm an engineer, they want me to be an engineer their way, not the other company's way, or they want to hire you because you know the knowledge the other company's doing. I'll rob you away. So why should I, the government, go out there and have my fellow citizens, somebody go to school so a company could go out there and say, rob this guy? Why? What is the purpose of going to college? Is it just to make a robot for some business to provide and enslave them to be employee, or when they don't like them, just kick them out? Back in the days, you got a job for your life. Now you're 5 years and you're looking for a new job. So why are we pushing the same process over and over and over again, and people are so happy? And beware, artificial intelligence is coming along. We're going to have big problems. We're going to put out tens of thousands of people and low-level people out of jobs. Even the high-level people are going to go out because the computers are going to do the jobs for us. So why is Edmond teaching people on AI? They should be teaching everybody about IA so that they'll have a job, because everybody else is going to be out of a job anyway.
Thank you very much, Mr. Harris. You wanted 15 more seconds real quick, and then, yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. I just wanted to say, Reagan, I'm not advocating for filtering students. The role of a professor, a role that I've had for years, is to encourage a student to formulate their own opinion. You're supposed to encourage a student to formulate your own opinion. What I'm saying is that we shouldn't have any individuals on the state dime, on the taxpayer's dime, telling students, this is what you should believe, this is what you should do, these are the types of political views you should have. Students should formulate their own opinions.
Thank you very much, Ms. Roth. You want 15 seconds to respond?
I think grown adults can make their own opinions, and I don't know that any professor is trying to push a certain ideology or political stance. I think, if anything, they're encouraging students to be presented with facts and to form their own opinions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Prodzinski. 15.
Abraham Lincoln didn't go to college. He became a president. Why don't we follow his steps?
Thank you very much. Speaking of education, our newsroom has been learning a lot about the topic of housing and the housing crisis that is facing the city of Edmond, the state of Oklahoma, and of course the nation as a whole. So let's talk about housing very briefly. I've got the first question to, oh, this is a toss-up. That's right. I'm sorry. My script let me down. In October, the city of Edmond received a report that projects that the city needs to add about 8,900 residential living units over the next decade just to catch up with the current housing demand. We've reported about folks who work in service industry jobs or other things not being able to find anywhere to live in Edmond, having to commute to Edmond to work those jobs. what possible legislative solutions do you support to improve access to housing in Edmond and across the state? Again, this is a toss-up, 60 seconds. Who wants to talk about housing first?
Well, Trace, I'll just make some brief comments. You know, I think I think housing, determining where an individual can live, where a family can live, that's an individual decision that a family has to make based off of their budget. Now, one area that I think a state legislator I'd be able to handle or help in that particular area would be taxes, cutting the grocery tax, providing that relief, cutting the income tax. Those are specific ways that a legislator is able to help on the housing crisis. Now, absent that, I do think that is something that an individual, a family, has to make the best decision for that family as to where they're able to, where they choose to live.
Ms. Roth, Mr. Prozinski, 60 seconds to you. What legislative solutions for the housing crisis would you support?
Just today in the Oklahoman, I read that the Oklahoma Housing and Stability Program would be a great way that has been passed or signed by the governor. I do think that's a great way to bring affordable housing into communities. Edmond is no different, that we have a need for affordable housing for many families. And I do think that part of our workforce is being driven out of Edmond because they cannot afford affordable housing. This does not exclude teachers. There are many teachers and educators in our district that are unable to afford housing and live elsewhere and commute in. I would support legislation that might incentivize programs that would provide high-density housing in areas of Edmond, but that's also a zoning issue that is very much in line with the city council. So it's not necessarily a legislative issue, but I think we could find some good solutions for that.
Mr. Prozinski, last to you, 60 seconds, housing, Edmond, the state, what should be done legislatively?
Be careful about growth. If you want to grow the city, let the investors who build the buildings help pay for the new streets, let them pay for the new water towers and the sewer lines, rather than saying these old guys out here, they paid for it, the new guys come along, and now they strain us down to death, and we say now raise taxes because we're bringing the people for more money. Raise taxes in order to get these people, give them jobs, get more money, but when you get the people, you get more bills. We're gonna have to buy new roads, new plays, new schools, new everything. Who's gonna pay for it? I would say do not encourage it. If you do, I expect the investors who build to go out there and build all the roads and all the things you need for those 80,000 people coming.
Thank you very much. I heard the words water bill, and if we want to be here all night, we'll talk more about that later. Thank you so much. That's the end of round two. Give our candidates a round of applause. Our final round tonight, we're just about 5 minutes late, but we're still on time, is titled To Be Representative. You'll each have 60 seconds to answer questions tailored to your campaigns. I'll help direct who we're answering these to because we phrased them differently. But first, Bennett has another toss-up question in partnership with Edmond Active, Sherry Holtner's lovely mag that covers the culture of Edmond. Bennett?
So imagine tomorrow is a special night for you and your loved ones or friends here in Edmond. What are you doing, where are you going, and what local businesses will help you make it an evening to remember?
30 seconds, toss it up.
Gabriella's. My wife and I love the pasta there. The lasagna is really good. That's really big.
Anybody else?
Right.
What are you doing, where are you going, what business makes your night special?
Does it have to be evening?
No?
I think you can start with a cup of coffee at Cafe Evoque, downtown Edmond. I think you can also go to Bluebird Books or Best of Books, two favorite bookstores, and peruse their book selections. I think a wonderful meal, one of my favorites, is Signature Grill in Kicking Birds Plaza, and it's certainly a treat. It's a very quaint, small restaurant, but locally owned and operated, and I am a big proponent of supporting local.
I spent a lot of time at Evoque when I was in high school here, so yeah.
I'm getting old. I'm not going to be able to drive down the road. Rather than give me a bus, I want to go out there and have all these unemployed people to be Uber workers working for the government and give them good jobs. And when I need a ride, just send an Uber to me and take me to her favorite restaurant.
Wonderful.
All right, well, thank you.
Bennett?
My next one is to you, Mr. Prudzinski. You have run for office a dozen times, largely to no avail, with no website proclaiming your personal priorities and with no structured campaign to convince the public that something specific should be fixed. On the off chance tonight is your best chance to articulate the broadest vision for public service in Edmond, take this softball and blast it over the left field fence. Why? Why do you keep running for public office?
Well, this year I might be lucky because people are so frustrated with Republicans and Democrats. I'm hoping that they'll say, I'm hell as hell, I'm not going to take it any longer. Open your windows. Yeah, I'm not going to take it any longer. The other reason is I am going to let them know somebody's going to say no. Everybody is afraid to speak to you. I'm not. I do not agree with you, and I want to talk to you, and let's talk honestly and no BS.
Mr. Harris, I've got your next question. It'll be 60 seconds. You've run unsuccessfully for a Senate seat yourself. Why are you running again, and how have you raised so much money this time?
Sure. Actually, would you repeat that, the question? Yeah. I think there were a couple in there.
Yeah, so you're running again. How have you raised so much money this time, and why did you decide to run this time around?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, my wife and I have a beautiful little girl. She's 7 months old. Her name is Olivia. And so for me, I want to do everything that I possibly can to make sure that the Oklahoma that she grows up in is the best Oklahoma possible. So that was a decision process that drove me, to think, or the thought that drove me to think about running for this position. Now, related to why or how I've been able to raise so much money, I'm just blessed to have a good amount of family and friends and colleagues that have thought enough of me to be willing to make an investment into my campaign. I've been shocked, quite honestly, about the amount of support. Little old me is getting this much support. I'm honored, truthfully.
All right, thank you very much. Ms. Roth, 60 seconds to you. Running for the legislature as a Democrat is a tall ask, particularly in Edmond. Why have you decided to knock doors in the winter and ask friends and family for your support?
Repeat the last part. Why
have you decided to knock doors in the wintertime and ask friends and family for your support?
Well, I do not believe that Edmond is as red as one would lead you to believe. If you look at the data, which I very much do, the last several election cycles are trending in a more middle-of-the-road approach. So if you look at the 2018 election cycle, if you look at 2022, Edmond and House District 39 specifically is trending very much in the middle. So with each cycle, I think we are silly not to respond and watch that. And I do think that Edmond values align very much in a more moderate direction. So I don't think it's fair to say that we are Republican or Democrat. I think we are Edmondites. I think we are Oklahomans. I think many of us are public school parents. And I think that the things that are important to us matter regardless of political party. May I still answer the second part of that? And please, why am I choosing to knock doors to all? Because I believe if I'm a representative for House District 39, I will represent all of us. And I have been knocking doors across party lines. Some conversations are a little bit more comfortable than others, but I see people as people. And at the end of the conversations, I'm feeling good. I'm taking their stories and what they are willing to share with me to heart. And I am listening. And I think that makes a good legislator. And I hope to be the representative that will listen and will talk to all voters regardless of their political affiliation.
Thank you very much. I have the next question for the three of you. Mr. Harris, we'll start with you. The Oklahoma legislature is still largely dominated by rural influence, or I don't want to say dominated, but led. And when Representative Ryan Martinez resigned, he was one of the most powerful urban members of the Oklahoma legislature. You're hoping to win this election and then another election in November and serve in a 2025 Oklahoma legislature that will have little urban leadership, or likely have little urban leadership, little minority leadership, and virtually no attorneys in leadership. So will you feel a need to represent urban populations at the state capitol, or are you more concerned with the nuts and bolts of the state's legal system and its economy?
I care about representing Edmond. Edmond is my constituency. I represent Edmond. That is who I care about. Now, as far as leadership and what have you, I believe in building relationships and working with people. And so if I'm able to put myself in a position to where I can advance Edmond causes, Edmond needs, Edmond wants, I'm going to do everything that I can to do that. So at the end of the day, my focus purely as a state legislator will be on what does Edmond need.
It strikes me that there's very few attorneys in the legislature. A lot of people don't really know that. So there's very few attorneys. There are no African-American no Republican members of the Legislative Black Caucus. So I just didn't know, does that sort of stuff matter to you at all? Like having that background of law or being able to be in those conversations. Does that matter to you in a way?
Well, as far as me being, or the potential of me being the only African-American Republican in the legislature, I don't want people to vote for me because I'm an African-American. I want people to vote for me based off of my background and what I want to do as a state legislator. So the fact that I'm an African-American isn't anything that I've really considered as something that is really matters in this race. We should be looking at people on the basis of their merit, what they're able to do, and what they hope to accomplish. Now, on the issue of me being an attorney, well, of course I think that that would be a benefit. You're right, we don't have a lot of attorneys in the legislature. We need individuals in the legislature who are able to quickly read and analyze legislation. And in legislation, words matter. And as an attorney, that is something that I have focused on for my entire career, being able to analyze a very complex and legal document to see exactly what is it doing and will it have the true effect that we're trying to get to. So, of course, I do think that my background as an attorney would for sure be helpful.
Thank you very much, Ms. Roth. I'm going to phrase this a little bit differently. For you, what crossover would your constituents in Edmond have with rural Oklahomans in terms of what issues, how does that matter, and how would you, as a member of the minority party, the Democratic Party, retain influence as an urban lawmaker?
Statewide, our legislative body is made up of, 21% of our legislative body is made up of women. But the state of Oklahoma, more than half of the population is made up of women. So I believe that a legislation that is better representative of Oklahoma speaks to all Oklahomans. And I believe that electing a woman and promoting female leadership and bringing women to the table of conversation can always benefit Oklahomans. Certainly moms can relate to each other in many ways. We're great multitaskers, and moms in urban areas are very similar to moms in rural areas, I would assume.
There you go. Thank you very much, Mr. Prodzinski. If you win, you would be the only libertarian in the legislature. Would that make a difference? And with whom would you caucus? Republicans, Democrats? Do you think they'd let you in?
I thought about it, but it'll be a message. The other legislators say, if somebody voted Libertarian, that means they don't want Republican or Democrat, and maybe next year down the road, there's going to be second and third Libertarian. So I'll be there saying, either be honest, tell us the whole truth, not just a part of the truth, and maybe another Libertarian will show up, and I'll be scary. I tell you, they will be worrying if I get elected.
Thank you very much. This is the last set of questions for you, and I'm going to go to Mrs. Roth again, a little bit on what you touched on. But I'm curious how you believe you should represent urban communities and women across the state. As you mentioned, there is limited influence from Democrats on major decisions. You would probably like to change the good old boy system that may pose some barriers to things you'd like to accomplish. So what most prepares you to work professionally in those dynamics?
Well, I definitely believe that women deserve a seat at the table, and there are many women that are working mothers. I think we can improve the area of perhaps paid leave for families, perhaps child care centers, perhaps workforce development that allow moms to re-enter the workforce after maybe they have taken time off to care for their young children. And I think an urban area is no different. I think there are areas in the rural community that want many of the same things that urban moms and urban women want for themselves, want for their families, want for their children attending schools. And I just I don't agree that there might be some major shift between urban and rural. I think I believe from New York, but I think majority of us have lived in Oklahoma for a long time. And Oklahoma values, to me, whether I'm in Edmond or whether I'm in Muskogee or Chakotah or Tulsa, to me the values are very similar across the board. And I would represent certainly HD 39, but I would also take into consideration families all across Oklahoma.
Mr. Brodzinski and Mr. Harris, let me phrase this to you the same way. Mr. Brodzinski, we'll start with you. Half or more of HD 39 residents you seek to represent are women. How can you guarantee that women will be respected in your office, and what policies are important to improve the quality of life for Oklahoma women?
I don't think the legislators could do that. The people need to do themselves. The people need to talk to their next door neighbors. They don't do that. They go to their house, they lock the doors, they don't even know who the next door neighbor is. So we need to go out there, get people in the streets, talk to each other, what their really opinions are. Be honest. I want my child to be good, but how do I get him good? Why is my kid taking drugs? Why? Ask the root problems. Why are these problems causing these problems year after year after year? We throw in 1,000 bills every single year, and we have the same problem over and over because we're just putting a Band-Aid on and kicking the problem down the roads. And the old timers, they're still counts. I have coffee with some of these guys, and they say they want honest and love women, but they constantly always batting down women. And this is indoctrinated to us by our parents and our past cultures. We need to go out there and actually sit down people. Back in good old days, you sit there and you drink with the person and you talk with them. In the Marine Corps, if you had two people disagreeing, the colonel says, you guys get in that room, stay in that room until you two guys get together. You don't come out till you come out. And maybe we should do that. Put the Republicans, Democrats in the same room and say, you guys agree. You don't come out. I'll bring you a sandwich. You don't get out until you guys agree.
Thank you very much. Mr. Harris, I'm going to ask the same question for you. How can you guarantee that women will be respected in your office and in the district, and what policies are important to improve quality of life for Oklahoma women?
Sure. Well, as far as guaranteeing that women are respected in my office, I respect women. I believe that women should have every opportunity that any man does. I think that's just a basic level of respect that all women should receive. On the issue of policy, one thing that I would like to call out is the issue of domestic violence. Oklahoma is at the top of every bad list when it comes to women on the issue of violence, domestic violence. Actually, we're in the top as far as all the states are concerned on the issue of domestic violence. I think that the legislature can take a more proactive approach to addressing domestic violence and making more services available to women that are victims of domestic abuse. Number one, we have to break the stigma and tell people and remind folks it's not okay to engage in that. And yes, men are victims of domestic violence, but the statistics show that women are more likely to deal with domestic violence than men. The legislature can take concrete steps today to ensure that women have the opportunity to quickly get out of a domestic abuse situation and receive the resources that they need to in order to start their lives over.
And I just have to ask, what is that concrete step? 15 seconds.
Oh, sure. So I'll try to do it in 15 seconds. Right now, if you're a woman that's married to or if you're married to a man who is a domestic abuser, depending on which county you're in, let's say you're in rural Oklahoma, sometimes those judges have every type of case that they're having to hear. And so if, let's say, you want to file for a divorce and get an immediate custody determination from a judge, you might have to wait a month, 2 months, 3 months. And in the case of a client, a woman that I represented who was choked by her husband, she had to wait 6 months to get a judge to at least say, well, hey, here's how custody should be working moving forward. Now imagine trying to co-parent with an individual who just got through trying to choke you. Oklahoma can make some good steps to ensure that a woman like her is able to immediately get in front of a judge within a reasonable amount of time to get some sort of relief for the sake of the kids, if not anything. Imagine what those kids are seeing in that environment.
Thank you very much. 30 seconds, either candidate on the topic. I gave extra time. Ms. Roth.
I think for a topic that involves women, certainly domestic violence is a problem, and reforms are needed in that space, but respectfully, no one's going to be able to address issues that affect a woman more than a woman.
Mr. Brodzinski, 15 seconds.
I think every woman should be able to be free. She should know that make sure we have money and a place to go when she's unhappy. Because what she does, she yells and screams at her husband. Her husband yells back, it accelerates, then they start getting violence. So if a woman knew she had enough money to pick up her stuff, move into an apartment and move, have her car, have a job, she was not going to have any problem. So let's go give all these women cars and houses and money. And the problem goes away.
All right, well, I would like a car and a house and some money. Thank you very much. That's the end of round 3. Appreciate the conversation. We're going to go to closing statements, 90 seconds. You are all welcome to step up if you want to talk. Mr. Brodzinski, 90 seconds to you, followed by Ms. Roth and Mr. Harris. Closing statements, sir, 90 seconds.
I would like to see the way we vote on people. We give a question, they log roll the things. You have to do A and B. The surveys give you a question with an A and D in it. I agree with one side, don't agree the other side. We need to go out there and deal with the root problems and just deal one problem at a time. We say we do that in bills, but we don't do it. We always roll things in, and we're negotiating every single bill by throwing 2 things together in some way, and therefore we can't make a really true, honest vote. And neither can the legislators totally vote because they're trading votes, really.
Thank you very much. Ms. Roth, 90 seconds to close to you.
I believe Edmond is interested in electing someone that knows this community, someone that has deep roots and has lasting relationships that I've built over the 30 years that I have lived here. I believe that running for office is courageous, and I am proud to be here before you as a candidate representing my own community for House District 39. I ask you to be courageous with me. On February 13th, I ask you to vote for the person over the party. I know that we have shared values, and I know that we can have conversations even if we don't agree on policy. I believe that we have hope as a community. I believe we have hope as a state, and I am doing this for all the right reasons. I believe in our community. I believe we all deserve representation, and I believe that voting matters. So on February 13th, I ask you to be courageous with me and vote, perhaps for a woman, and help me to represent House District 39, which is a community I love and cherish and hope to represent in the state legislature. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Harris, 90 seconds to you to close.
Well, thank you all so much again for taking the time to set up this forum. I know we all appreciate the opportunity to visit. And thank you all, everyone in the audience and online, for tuning in and listening. Now, I'm sure you will realize, or have realized, that there is a difference amongst the candidates as far as views, what we would like to focus on, and the types of decisions that we would make as a representative, representing you, representing your values. Now, I will tell you, for me, the thing that I would like to focus on as your state representative, making sure we get our education system back on track, ensuring that our economy is invested in properly, but that you are invested properly as well. You know, I believe that individuals are the better or best to determine how their dollars are spent versus government. I also believe that government is a little bit too big, and we should reduce all of the duplicative services that we have seen throughout the state. That's what you would get if I'm honored to receive your support. Now, I'll tell you, no one's going to work harder for you. No one's going to read and analyze every piece of legislation that comes before my desk. No one on this stage will work harder for you than me. And I don't mean that as a slight. I just mean it to state a simple fact. I'd be glad to visit with you all whenever you have an opportunity, and would encourage you to take a look at my website, erichharrisok.com, and I respectfully ask for your support to be your next state representative. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Give our candidates a round of applause. Thank you all for being here. That concludes tonight's debate. Thank you, News 9, for a wonderful job streaming this. Thank you to everybody who's here. Remember to vote on Tuesday, February 13th. Thank you to our debate sponsors against the State Chamber of Oklahoma, AARP Oklahoma, and Public Debates Matter. Thank you so much. Have a great night.